Hi everyone, it's Christine from Christine's Stampin' Spot. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I have a really cute little winter fun scene card to share with you. This card was made using the new Stampin' Up! Spirited Snowmen stamp set, which is brand new from the 2018 holiday catalog that just came out last week. How adorable are these little snowmen? I used this little image of a little snow couple here to create today's card, and here is what I came up with. If you look closely, you can see that I have colored the cute little snow couple with some of our Stampin' Right markers, which are alcohol markers. And then if I tilt this just right, you can see that I have added some of our shimmer paint to create this fun, snowy and shimmery background. I also used a die from another set, which I'll show you in a moment, to create the little hillsides, and I used glimmer paper for the hills. I used one of our new embossing folders from the holiday catalog to sort of peek out of the background, and I added some shimmer paint to that. So it's just a really cute little simple card. We'll do some inking to create our background, night sky, and then we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and get started. This is a very simple looking card, but there are several steps to get it to this point. So let's go ahead and get started so the video is not too terribly long. We're going to start with a piece of thick Whisper White cardstock since we're going to be coloring with our alcohol markers. And this is cut to 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And this is going to be our main panel where our little snowmen and our little scene is built on. What I did is I took from the In the Woods framelit dies, which coordinates with a beautiful stamp set. I took this die here, which is a sort of just a little whoosh, little hillside whoosh, if you will. I took that die and I used some glimmer paper, and I already went ahead and pre-cut our little hillside here, which looks like this. The way that I did this was I took a little piece of white glimmer paper here, and I ran it through my Big Shot with, I cut it to the width of this piece of white cardstock, which is 4 1/4. And then I ran it through the Big Shot with the little whooshy hillside die at the top, and then I turned it over and put it at the bottom of that same piece of cardstock. And I came out with something that looks kind of like this. So you just sort of layer these on top of each other and you get a really cute little hillside. So what I'm going to do is, just for placement purposes, I'm going to place, I'm not going to adhere down, I'm just going to place these little hillsides down here at the bottom super quickly so I can get my placement right. And I'm going to take a pencil and just sort of mark right about here. I don't need to go all the way over to the right because my little couple's going to be on the left side of the cardstock. So now I know that I need to stamp my couple right at this line here so that the hillside doesn't cover them up. So I'll probably go slightly, just like a 1/16 of an inch above the line when I stamp the little couple down. And again, the little couple that we're using is this image right here. Alrighty, so I went ahead and already put it on my clear block. These are red rubber stamps. You can actually get them with the wood mount if you prefer. I like the clear mount so I can just stick them on my acrylic blocks. They're very easy to store as well this way, and a little bit less expensive. So I went ahead and inked this up with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. That's important if you're using any type of alcohol marker, including our Stampin' Right markers. You need to use the Memento Tuxedo Black ink. It is alcohol marker friendly. If you were watercoloring, you would use this StazOn, but for alcohol markering, we're using the Memento. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and now we're just gonna stamp this little couple right above this line, and we're gonna go to the left of center, so they're gonna be about right here. And now I'm gonna go ahead and stamp the couple down. There we go. I went a little bit further down the pencil line than I intended, simply because I can't get my head right over where I'm stamping because of the camera, but that's no big deal. When I put the little hillsides down, I'm just gonna put them a little bit lower, and then we'll trim off the bottom, and you'll see what I mean in a moment when we get there. It's super easy, no big deal. All right, now what we want to do is create our fun wintry night sky background with our inks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask. Now to save time, I've already done that. I found these Post-it notes at Target and they are full stick Post-it notes, which is awesome. The entirety of the back of the Post-it note is sticky, which makes it perfect for masking. So I already, like I said, to save time, went ahead and stamped these little guys on a Post-it note here. So they're all ready to go. And we are just gonna go ahead and stick this down. You can see this is the one that I already used because it's got lots of ink on it for my first card, but I reuse these and store them in my stamp case until they don't have any sticky anymore. And then I just make another one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and line this up with my stamped image here. And then I'm going to stick it down. Let me just go over just a little bit. I'm a little bit off on her. There we go. There we go. Okay, so our little mask is now all stuck down. Now I want to point something out. There's a little bit of space in between the couple here. Can you see that? If you wanted to be precise and get an X-Acto knife out to cut that out of your mask, you can do that. But what I did, and I'll show you how I did this, I didn't fuss with that, and instead I just used my blends to color those little parts in, and you can't even tell. It blends right in, and it looks like I used the inks just like the rest of the background, but I didn't, and I think that's pretty cool. So I'll show you how I did that, but if you wanted to save yourself a little bit of coloring time, you could take an X-Acto knife and cut out those little sections there, and then the little triangle of her arm as well, if you wanted to. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and erase our line here that we made with our pencil, and then let's get to inking. I'm going to bring over some scratch paper, and the ink colors that we are using today are Blackberry Bliss, Lovely Lipstick, and Night of Navy, and then we'll use a Memento Black at the end. And I just wanted some color in the night sky, so that's why I have the purple and the Lovely Lipstick out. And you'll see it's really easy to do this. So the first thing you need to do is grab some Stampin' sponges. I label mine with a tag punch and just write on what it is so I can reuse these until they, are no longer really usable. I'm going to open up my lighter colors first, which is going to be the red and the purple, because we just want a little touch of these colors poking through the night sky just to give it a fun look. So what I'm gonna do, and it's okay to ink down where we know we're gonna have our hillside. You don't have to, you don't have to worry about that. I'm just gonna kind of ink the whole thing just because, not the whole thing, I know I can stop about here. So I'll probably stop just and not go below the couple, but it doesn't really matter. So when you're using your Stampin' sponges, you wanna kind of start off the paper and then come in and see, I can go right over the couple here. And I'm just adding some of this Lovely Lipstick. Start off the paper, come in. Make sure that mask is down good. Okay, now it looks ridiculous. I know, stay with me. I'm coming in now with the Blackberry Bliss. And obviously, this probably goes without saying, but you want to make sure that you have a different Stampin' sponge for each ink color so you don't contaminate your ink pad. So this is my Blackberry Bliss Stampin' sponge. As you can see, I have it labeled here. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get nice and inked up our sponge. We're going to start off the paper and we're going to come in with this beautiful purple. And it really blends lovely with the Lovely Lipstick. It really does, I think. It looks really, really nice. This corner of my mask does not seem to want to stay down. I may have gotten some ink on my girl's snowman, but we'll fix that. Okay. So just keep going. Just keep adding your purple. It's going to look like a mess until it looks like it's supposed to. So bear with me here. Just keep going. Trust me, it's going to come out great. The reason you want to start off the paper is so you don't have a huge clump of ink in the middle of your project. Okay. So again, it's looking ridiculous, right? I'm going to add just a little bit more of the Lovely Lipstick just to add a little bit more of the pink color. It's more of like a pinkish red, honestly, but anyway. Okay, so now we're probably done with the Blackberry Bliss and the Lovely Lipstick, but keep them nearby just in case we need to reach into them again. And now I'm going to grab the Night of Navy, and I have my new sponge here for Night of Navy, and we're going to go all around the perimeter of this cardstock and then go a little bit in with this super beautiful dark blue ink to really give it this night sky feeling. So as you can see, as you put inks on top of each other, you really get a nice blend. When we first started, it looked ridiculous, didn't it? And we're using the thicker Whisper White cardstock, so blending's even a little bit harder. Whisper White cardstock is perfect for this technique. It blends like butter. But when you're using the thicker Whisper White cardstock, or any other cardstock, it's a little bit more of a challenge. But by layering all these different colors on top of each other, we're really getting a beautiful blended look, I think. Okay, so we're probably good on that. Let's grab our Tuxedo Black ink now, and I'm just gonna do black right around the edge. So right around the edges of the cardstock. So I have another sponge for my black here. And we're just gonna, it's barely, probably not gonna show up at all on camera. It's very subtle in person, but you can tell, and it just adds a little bit more highlight, and it makes that lighter color, you know, the lovely lipstick and the Blackberry Bliss that we put on first, pop when you have this sort of dark outline. Again, it's very, very subtle in person, so it might not show up to the greatest extent on camera, but I think it's worth it to take just a little bit of that black. I'm really happy with how our sky looks, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it done and put our inks away. The only ink you want to keep out is Memento for our sentiment. You can put the rest of the inks away at this point. So now what I want to do, now that we have this pretty background sky in, is we want to add a little bit of stars. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to grab the new Frost White Shimmer Paint that is from the new holiday catalog. I'm going to give it a nice shake, which not only activates the ink, but it also, if you turn it upside down as you shake it, has put some of the paint into the lid of the jar. So you can take off the lid and then you can kind of use the inside of the lid there where there's some paint as your palette box, if you will. You're, you know, as if you were painting and had a palette. So what I'm gonna do is, this is just a very cheap paintbrush. It came in like a set for $3 from Michael's. It's not a big deal at all. You can get these anywhere. I'm going to put just a little bit of paint on the end there of the paintbrush, as you can see. Again, this is the Frost White Shimmer Paint. There's 4 new colors out. And then I'm going to just simply make sure you have scratch paper behind you. If you can see from my workstation here, I did not at one point, and there's paint all over my workstation. And then you're just going to sort of bang this against your finger. I'm not doing it yet. I'm just showing you in slow motion. You're going to bang it against your finger, and it's going to make a little splatter. You could also use a toothbrush. That works great too. An old, obviously not a toothbrush you're going to brush your teeth with, but you just, you know, you would have to pour out some of the paint to do it that way, because the toothbrush is bigger than this little tip here, of course. But then you would just rub your fingers along the bristles, and it makes a really pretty splatter. So that's also an option. But I didn't want to have to waste some of the ink by pouring it out. So I chose this method. All right, so here we go. Ready? I'm just going to flick it. It's very subtle. There's a few little dots coming off here. I'm going to try again here. There we go. A little bit better. Can you see? I hope this is showing up on camera. It has been a washout weekend for us here in West Virginia. And so my lighting is awful. And I'm hoping that this shows up. Just kind of go at that lid quite a bit, and you know, the paint that's in the lid, get that top of your paintbrush, the bristles of your brush, really saturated, and then just bang this until you get some of the splatter that you're looking for. All right, that's probably good. I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on this, and I will bring this up to the camera so you can see what it looks like. And I did get some paint on my work surface here, but that's okay. If you get it quickly, it comes right off. And I'm just using a baby wipe to get some of that off. So let me show you what we did. It's very subtle, but we put some beautiful shimmery paint on our sky, and it looks like stars, doesn't it? And of course we kept the mask on so we didn't get paint on our little snow couple. So let's set this aside for just a moment to let the paint dry. It'll only take a minute. And let me explain the next parts of the card. So the next step, and I already did this because we're going to be doing some coloring as well, so I didn't want this video to be super long, but I used the brand new Swirls and Curls textured embossing folder from the holiday catalog, and I ran it through my Big Shot using some Blackberry Bliss cardstock that I thought really matched the purple hues in the sky we just created with our inks. Look at how beautiful that embossing folder is. I just love this one. And then what I did is I've done this in a couple of videos now, so I just went ahead and pre-did it for us, so this video wasn't too long, but I took the frost white paint, gave it a shake again, opened it up, put a sponge dauber on my fingertip, and then used the lid to just get some paint out and rub it along the embossing folder. And so now we have that beautiful shimmer paint on the embossed portions of this beautiful panel. And this panel is just going to be peeking out slightly from the behind our little scene. So it's not going to overwhelm the viewer, but this would be beautiful if you had a smaller image, you know, to just make this the focal piece. But unfortunately, we're going to cover a lot of it up, but it's really, really pretty. And then I have a black card base. So it's sort of very non-traditional colors, but I thought they all went together because of course we're going to color the little snowman's hat black and that kind of thing. So you'll want to grab a piece, I forgot to do it before coming on camera, but you're going to want to grab a piece of Whisper White cardstock to put on the inside to write your message on. Let's go ahead and adhere while we're waiting on that paint to dry. Let's go ahead and adhere this piece of embossed Blackberry Bliss cardstock to our basic black card front here. It's a standard size card front. It measures 8.5 by 5.5. It's scored at 4.25. And then this embossed panel of Blackberry Bliss cardstock was cut at 5.25 by 4 to layer right on top of that basic black. And I thought that the black really makes the white paint on this pop. Hopefully the lighting is doing this justice. In the description box below of this video will be a link to my blog as well as other informational links for you guys. Make sure to check out my blog because I will have some pictures on there. I have a little photo studio set up in a different part of the house that doesn't rely on natural lighting as much as my videos do. And so I'm able to get really good photographs most of the time. So make sure to check that out to see real, you know, better pictures than perhaps the video is showing. The next thing that we want to do is you'll take a little strip of lovely lipstick cardstock, and I forget what this measures, so let me check. It's, let's see, 2.25 by 1/2 inch, and I just simply stamped my Love Never Melts sentiment from the stamp set onto this, and then used my triple banner punch to create the little banner end of the sentiment panel. And that punch, by the way, is a must-have punch in my opinion, and it looks like this, and I love it. It has embedded in it 3 different sizes for banners: 1 inch, 1.5, and 2. Obviously, this is just a 1/2 inch, right? And there's not a slot for that, but you can do any size in this thing. And you just, you know, look through the back and get it where you want it and punch it through, and you can use this for anything up to, of course, the 2 inches. You can't do wider than that because it won't fit. But I love that punch. I use it all the time. All right, so it looks like this is about dry. We're going to bring this panel back over, and then what we're going to start doing is using our blends to color. I'm not going to do a whole lot of complicated coloring on this. I'm just going to use the blends, you know, in a simple fashion here to get this colored and get this video done. I did quite a bit of shading on my original, but I've done lots of videos showing you how to do that. So I'm just going to try to keep it as simple as possible, although I'll still show you some tips and tricks. Let me just make sure this paint is dry. Yes. See how quickly that paint dried? It's really awesome how quickly it dries and you can get right to your projects. Now, I had mentioned this flap kept coming up, and I did get a little bit of ink on my little girl's snowman. Can you see that there? I thought that that had happened, and I mentioned that earlier on in the video. It's not a big deal. I will fix that with my markers, my coloring. So I'm just going to store my little mask right back inside the cover of the case until I need to create a new one. And now let's go ahead and get started. I do have some pencil lines inside of the snowmen. So let's go ahead and get rid of those. And now what we want to do first is we want to go ahead and color our snow people. And yeah, I know, right? Color the snow people. That sounds weird because snow is white, but we want to give them just the tiniest little bit of shadow. So I'm going to grab just my light smoky slate marker, Stampin' Blend. Remember, these are alcohol markers. They have two ends. One is a smaller end here. If you can see that I don't really use, but if you're not comfortable with a brush tip, you could certainly use it. I use the brush end all the time. So to color the snow people, you're gonna want your color lifter and your light smoky slate. And let me show you what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have, since they're looking this way, I'm gonna pretend like the moon or a bright star or something is up here and it's casting a little bit of light coming this way at my couple. So the left side of the couple is gonna be the darkest side, or where the shadow is, and the little lighter reflection side is gonna be on to their right. So where I'm putting my marker is where it's going to be darkest. Does that make sense? So I'm just putting, and I'm working in small sections, I'm putting some gray down on this first circle here of this little snow guy. Then I'm going to take my color lifter, and I'm going to go in a circular motion and iron out this line. So you're still going to see the color, but you're just not going to see a chunk of marker down. And it just gives a slight shadow that still makes this image appear white, right? But it has a little bit of a shadow too. Excuse me. I got a frog in my throat there. It still has a little bit of a shadow to it. Can you see what I'm talking about? I'm really hopeful that this is picking up on camera, because this is, I hope, you know, some useful information for you guys. So now I'm going to do the bigger section. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge this time. I'm just going to, and I'll tell you why, because when you use the colorless blender, it's going to push that ink. It's like when we color out of the lines and we use the color lifter, we push it back in, right? It's pushing the ink. Well, if I have this ink all the way to the edge, it's going to push it out, and it's going to cause a little bit of the gray. Now I can erase that with my color lifter, but it just takes a little more time. So trust me, just put it a little bit in from the edge. And now I'm going at this with the color lifter to iron out this line of color. So bear with me here. You got to really kind of go at it in a circular motion to really get that ink moving and ironed out. But it will get there. You just have to be patient with it and just keep going. Don't give up. Just keep pressing into the paper and keep going at it in a circular motion. And hopefully you're seeing how that line of color that I put down just a moment ago with that light smoky slate marker is gone. And now we just have this little bit of a shadow here. See that? Can you guys see that? Ignore the color over here. That's really bothering me. I'm going to fix that. But can you see how we now have this shading, this little bit of a shadow here on our little guy snowman? I'm going to come up here and do his head portion by putting just a little bit under his hat and around his head there. And then do the same thing. Iron it out with the color lifter. There we go. It's that simple. Now, normally I wouldn't be putting the marker on the right side because, again, I feel like this is where it's going to be lightest, but I want to cover up this mistake here. So again, I'm not going all the way to the edge. I'm just kind of coming around like that. And this will help cover up that boo-boo where our mask lifted up and we got some of that Blackberry Bliss ink. It's not going to cover it up perfectly. We might have to put an embellishment there or something, but it'll help. All right, and so now we're just going to iron this out. Forgive me for turning the paper. It just helps me not get my head in the frame. But I just kind of have to work around and get this this marker all sort of ironed out so we don't have that harsh line and we just have this subtle shading. Yeah, that did not cover like I wanted to. So you know what we'll probably do is we'll put our sentiment maybe just a little bit different to fix that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put some more underneath her hat here on her head portion. And again, I didn't go all the way over to the end, right, because we're pushing this color when we're using the color lifter. So I don't want it to go out of the lines, so I'm just going to keep it simple and not go all the way to the edge. I'll show you again here. I'm going to go, see, I'm not going all the way over to the left. I'm just coming a little bit in from the left there. Can you guys see that there as I've scribbled my ink down? And now I'm taking the color lifter And now when I push it, it's okay because I left myself some room. So that ink's gonna kind of go out as it's fading with the color lifter, but it's not gonna go out of the lines because I drew the line of ink a little bit in. Hopefully that makes sense, because that's really important. Otherwise, I found I've colored so many of these in different ways to try to explain the best way to do it. And if you don't do it the way I'm describing now, it will bleed out of the lines. And again, it's not a big deal. You can use your color lifter to fix it, but it's a little bit harder when you have an inked background like we have. So to avoid that, definitely, you know, just put your color down a little bit in from the outside line of the image. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our Blackberry Bliss. We have light and dark. And I had mentioned before, do you see how you have these little sections here that I had mentioned with the mask that you could cut out with an X-Acto knife if you wanted to? You have 3 of them. You have one here, and then one here in the crook of her arm. And it looks kind of silly to leave it because that's obviously space, so that should be sky back there, right? So what we're gonna do to fix that is we are going to, because I didn't want to fussy cut my mask and put, you know, with an X-Acto knife and stuff, so if you did that, then you don't have to do this step. I am going to take some dark Blackberry Bliss, and I'm going to put it sort of at the top and the bottom of that empty space there. I'm going to grab some dark Night of Navy, because we use that in our sky as well, and kind of put that a little bit over top. And then I'm going to use my light Blackberry, oops, I'm glad I checked. I grabbed lovely lipstick. That would not have worked. Here it is, light Blackberry Bliss, and we're just going to blend this out. And it's going to look just like our sky when we're all done. I'm going to take one more time. I'm going to grab the dark Blackberry Bliss again and just sort of smush it out one more time. There we go. And it's going to look like our sky right between there. I'm going to do the same thing in this space here. So I've got the dark Blackberry Bliss. Oh my goodness, I cannot speak. So we're just going to fill that little space in with the dark. Add just a little bit of Night of Navy, because again, that was in our sky as well. That was in our sky color palette there. And then we're going to grab the light Blackberry Bliss and blend it all out. And then I like to go in one more time with the dark Blackberry Bliss, just to smooth out that shading a little bit. And then come back in with your light, and you're done. And so now we just have to do this one more time in the little position under her arm. And this is so tiny that I'm not gonna worry about the Night of Navy. I'm just gonna do a little bit of the dark Blackberry Bliss. Why can I not say blackberry today? I don't know what is going on. And then just fill it in with the light. And there you go. So now we have, it looks natural. It looks like it was just a part of our background. And so that's a way to save you having to fussy cut a whole mask and everything out. Okay. Now we just have to quickly color the little hats and scarves and the heart, okay? So let's do that quickly now. I'm going to take my dark basic black on his hat, and I'm just gonna add some color to that. So we're gonna do the top of his little hat. And then this here, we're going to leave blank because that's going to be like the little colored band. So we're going to make that a different color. So I'm just going to come around. And again, I'm starting with my dark marker. And then we'll use our light to sort of blend it. If I was really going for a lot of shading on this, I might do things just slightly differently. But I just want some fun coloring. I'm not really super worried about perfect shading right now. I just want this to be a fun, cute little image. So I'm just bringing this out with the light basic black, and then we'll do this brim here as well. Okay, while we have our black markers out, we can go ahead and do her hat as well. So grab your dark basic black again, and remember where you put the marker down is where the shadow is, the shading, the shadow, the darkest part of your image. So I am putting it to the left, and then a little bit, amongst the holly leaves, because they would obviously cast a little bit of a shadow. And then we're coming in with the light basic black. The black markers, as I said in my Halloween card I posted a couple days ago, the black Stampin' Right markers are very, very dark. So the shading is very subtle. I can see it in person, but you most likely cannot see it on video. And that's okay. But if you wanted to, I have some tips in that video on how to use your color blender and some other things to add more of a shadow if that's what you're looking for. And I'll show you right now quickly if we wanted to add, because this is going to be the lightest part of his hat, right? If we wanted to add a little bit of a highlight over here, just take your color lifter, go in a circular motion and gently remove some of the color. We can do the same thing to her hat over here if we want to. And now we have, and I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see, now we have a little bit more of a highlight there on the tops of their hats. If you want to do that, that's certainly not something that you have to do at all. It's just, you know, it's just a tip, a way to get more of a little bit of a shadow, or I'm sorry, a highlight on your image when you're using the darker markers. Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's see, let me think. Let's do his scarf. And I chose just Night of Navy for his scarf. So I'm going to grab the dark, put the dark color down where it's going to be darkest. So kind of like around the heart, up here, and then around here. So again, I'm literally just laying a line of marker down. If you guys see that, there's nothing special to what I'm doing. I'm then taking the light Night of Navy and I'm just simply pulling this out. So I blend it with the dark that we've put down and then fill in the rest of the white space with the light. And that gives us this nice shaded effect. If you've watched any of my blend videos here on YouTube, you know I usually like to hit this twice. I like to go back in with the dark, retrace over what I've done, and then come back in with the light again, and you'll get a way more dramatic look to the shading. I'm not going to do that for this video simply because there's so many different techniques we're doing in this video. It's making it quite lengthy. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in how I achieve that look, to go ahead and watch my Halloween card that I just posted. It would be the video right before this one. I'm using Cherry Cobbler, by the way, on this band of his hat. I put the dark down first. Now I'm coming in with the light. Or I also have a card a few days back that uses the new Country Home Suite from Stampin' Up. And I really talk about how to blend in that as well. And it's a really good video. It's free here on YouTube. And I do a lot of blending techniques in that. And I really show you in detail how I like to use these markers. Just like you were using Copics or any other alcohol markers on the market, you can use these the same way. So I encourage you to go check out those videos. I'm just doing some basic coloring with the markers today and just getting tiny little shading going on here today. I'm using dark shaded spruce now for the holly leaves, and now I'm going to come in with the light. Oops, wrong end. Coming in with the light, and we're just going to add some highlight to the little holly leaves here. And then I'm going to take just the dark Cherry Cobbler here to color in the little holly berries. They're so tiny that you're not going to get really any shading on those. So I'm just going to color them in fully there. Now I'm going to come over here to this little heart, and that's where I'm going to use the lovely lipstick. So I'm going to come in with the dark first. And again, the left side of the image is where my shadow is going to be. So I'm going to come in there with the dark. Then I'm going to grab the light, lovely lipstick, and we're just going to pull this out and blend it, and then pull the light color into the rest of the white space. So we have a nicely shaded, and even just doing this once and quickly, I can still see, and hopefully it's showing up on camera a bit, I can still see the shading. It's just using the tips that I use in those other videos, it'll show you how to get an even more shaded look, if that makes sense. Okay, now I'm going to color her little bow green, so I'm using dark shaded spruce first, and I'm just coming in here and putting the color down where it's going to be the darkest. And then I'm coming in with the light shaded spruce and doing what we've been doing here, just pulling it out, blending it together. If I go out of the lines, it's just because my head's not over the image. It's a very easy image to color, and you guys won't have any trouble with that. Sometimes when I'm not right over it, my vision's not what it used to be. So I've noticed when I've watched some of my videos back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I went out of the lines and I didn't even notice it. So hopefully you know, you'll forgive that. Okay, I'm using dark cherry cobbler now on her scarf. I'm just gonna come down with the dark and then grab your light cherry cobbler and then go in and blend it out. And like I said, just doing it this simply, you'll still get a shaded look. If you want more of a dramatic shaded look, definitely check out my other videos for some tips on how to achieve that, because you can with these markers. All right, now I'm just gonna do the little tip of her scarf in green. So grab your dark, grab your dark shaded spruce. I keep opening the wrong end. And then just grab your light to add some highlights. Okay, we need to do our snowman's nose. I'm doing dark pumpkin pie at the end, or at the part closest to his face, I should say. And then I'm pulling it out to the end with the light pumpkin pie, just for a little bit of a shaded look on his little carrot nose. And then finally we need to do their arms. So I'm using soft suede, and so we'll start with the dark, and we'll just put a little bit here. You know, again, where you're laying your darkest marker is where you feel it's going to be shaded on, you know, the darkest part of your image. So I feel, since my light source is coming in this way, obviously there's going to be a little highlight on her elbow, and by highlight that means it's going to be the lightest part. So that's why I left that for the light soft suede marker. Does that make sense? I worry that sometimes I'm just not explaining things well. I hope that you guys, that this makes sense, because I wouldn't use anything on my videos that I don't absolutely love, and I absolutely love these markers, so I hope that I'm adequately explaining them, and so you can try them out, because I really think you guys will love them too. Now, here they are all colored, but we do have this dark background that we created with our inks. So I wanted to create sort of a shadow effect around them so they really stand out. So grab your dark Blackberry Bliss, and I can, this is so cool. You can do this right over the ink that you've just laid down. So I'm just gonna work in a small section. I'm just laying a line of this right around my girl snowman. Do you see that? See what I did there? I literally just laid a line of the dark Blackberry Bliss around. I'm going to grab my light and go over it and blend it just a little bit here. And then we are going to take our, so you see that now, we have a slightly thicker line around her. Then grab your color lifter. That's why I always say in my videos, the color lifter is a must-have. It really is magic. It really is. And then just blend until this line softens, just like you did when coloring the gray of the little snow people. You just blend this until this line softens. You still want the little, you still want, you know, the highlight and a line around them, but you don't just want a marker line. Does that make sense? So you're just gonna blend this until it's just a very subtle shading around them. And now I'm just going to keep going. I like to work in small sections, as I've said. So now we're going to come, I stopped about here. So now I'm going to come around and get our little nose here of our male snowman, and then come around, and I can probably just finish quickly here. Just do this quickly. So this will also help if there were any, you know, if your mask wasn't necessarily perfect and there was a little bit of you know, white space between your inking and your image because of the mask. This will fix that as well. So I went in with the light. Now you take your color lifter and you just iron out those lines. So simple, but such an amazing effect in my opinion. I absolutely love it. And it really does just create this subtle little shadow. And I'm doing this right over an inked background. Isn't that cool that I can do that? It's not even messing with my paint that we put down with that shimmer paint. It's not even messing with it. It's not covering it up. It's pretty awesome. Now it's subtle, but hopefully you guys can see now they're more outlined and they stand out. They are popped now from that background, just with that little tiny step. And I am so sorry my mask peeled up and there's that mistake there. It is really bothering me. And I'm really sorry, guys. I try to do, you know, make things as perfect as I can for my videos for you guys, and I hate it when I make silly errors like that. All right, so now we're gonna take our little hillsides that we made with that die that I showed you at the beginning of the video. And so I'm just adding some adhesive to the back here of these little hillsides and sticking them down. And we'll probably have to trim some off since, yep, we will. See, there's a little bit of excess at the bottom there because again, I just didn't have my head right over it. So when we drew our pencil line and then I stamped, I was a little lower than I intended to be. No big deal though. We're just gonna trim this off with some scissors. So just flip it over and trim the excess off. And nobody will ever know that you did that. Of course, you have to cut it straight, and I just totally messed that up. Okay. So I definitely recommend, and I should have done this, I wasn't thinking, when you're applying something to glimmer paper, it's grainy. It's a different substance or texture than regular cardstock. So it's very hard to get things to stick, and regular adhesive just isn't going to cut it. So grab some glue dots and see how I'm just putting some glue dots on the back of this strip. This is going to really keep it from coming up. So I definitely recommend whenever you're adhering something on top of glimmer paper that you do use that glue dots or tear and tape, just something that's stronger than regular snail adhesive. You just need something that's a wee bit stronger. And now there's a little bit more I need to cut off here because my second little hill had slipped because I had used regular adhesive. So now it looks like it should. Okay, so here's our little scene now. Isn't that precious? I just think that's so adorable. Okay, so now the next step is we're just gonna put our card together. We are going to adhere this to a piece of lovely lipstick cardstock that measures 4.5 by 3.5. So you can just use regular adhesive for this. And this, by the way, is totally normal. This will happen with any alcohol markers. They will bleed through on the back. So just always be aware of that. And we always mount our stuff as card makers. Usually we're always doing layers and mounting things anyway. So it's not a big deal, but just something to be aware of. Now flip this over and grab some dimensionals. I'm going to give this a little bit of a pop on top of the card base that we already put together. All right, so let's peel these backings off here. One thing that I did on the finished card, but I don't like it as much, honestly, as what I just did, is I took some of this shimmer paint that we used, the Frost White Shimmer Paint, and I put a tiny little bit of it in one of our spritzer bottles, and then I filled the rest of the bottle up with rubbing alcohol, and then you give it a nice shake and you spray it, and that's what gave all of this shimmer at the top. But I think it almost overpowered my cute little snowman couple, so I'm not going to do it for this one. But this is a great tip and way to make your any paper, any cardstock you own shimmery. With any of our shimmer paints, you can do this. You just add mostly alcohol, rubbing alcohol to the spritzer, and then just put a little drop or two of the paint in, and then spray away, and it's quite lovely. But for this, I really just like the subtle stars, and after I sprayed my original card, I was kind of sad that I did, because I felt like, while it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, I felt that it kind of took away a little bit from my cute little couple. All right, so now the finishing touch is the little Love Never Melts sentiment, which in the final card I have right about here, but I'm gonna cover up this mistake that I have here. So I'm going to put it in sort of a wonky place just because I don't like that mistake that I have there, and it's driving me crazy. So I'm just going to put a couple mini dimensionals here on this end, and then we'll see, let's see, actually I'm going to need, since I'm putting it in a different spot, I'm going to need more than that actually. So grab 3 mini dimensionals if you're doing it this way, and then I'm just going to put it right there, like that. So not really the design that I wanted, but it covers up the mistake, so it works, right? All right, guys, so I know this has been a super long video, but I hope that it was worth it and you love these cards. So this is the one I was talking about where you can see all that shimmer that goes everywhere. I felt, you know, I kind of wish I hadn't done that. I really like just the subtle little drops of the snowy look, but this is still really pretty, my original card, I think. And here's the one that we just made together with just the subtle little, either you can think of them as stars or snowflakes in this night sky. Really, really cute. So this is the card, guys. And you could, of course, add any, you know, extras that you wanted if you wanted to, but I decided to keep it simple and just let the shimmer paint and the cute little couple do the work for us and be the stars of the show. Okay, so that's it. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me on this lengthy video. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.